wanted to do a walk around of the Bullitt now that I have the car back and just go over how the car looks now and mostly the things that were changed on the car during the ownership of the guy I sold it to until the time I got it back. Now, if you recall, I sold the car about 2 years ago, and the new owner did change some things like the hood and the wheels, and those were things that he did to the car, and I had advised him to hold on to the stock parts no matter what you do. And I was able to get the car back, and I went up and changed the wheels and hood back right when I bought the car and brought it home. So that was all included in the video of me buying the car back. But I wanted to go over some of the things that the car has done to it now that he had done while he had the car. They were very minimal things, but they are really nice things, and I approve of all the things he had done. You can see the car looks exactly how I like it. It looks like a Bullitt should. From the outside, just wider tires in the back, lowered a little bit. Those are the only things you really notice about it from the exterior wise of being different than any other Bullitt Mustang. And the interior, very, very similar as well. It has some unique Bullitt floor mats that I had when I sold the car, and those are still there. And besides a couple of gauge pods, the interior is very stock, and that's how I like the car. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's how I enjoy these cars the most. I think Ford did a great job designing these. So I didn't see much need to change anything. I do have the coin slot delete that we'll see a little bit better. And I do have LEDs in the dome light, reading lights, and behind the gauge cluster. So here are the new gauges. I'll show them lit up in a minute. He did change the gauges. He didn't change what they are, he just changed which brand they are. So that it's still an air fuel and a boost gauge. The crack in the windshield was already there. It was actually kind of cool because it was like getting the car back exactly how I left it. Under the hood still has the built engine, MMR 600, comp cams, Patriot heads, all of the forged internals, everything is there. And a ported Stegmeyer Stage 4 supercharger. This is all stuff that I had put on the car. It also has a BBK throttle body and a cold air intake from Mack and the SCT mass airflow. The Bullitt hologram sticker is still there, even though it's a little hard to read. And there is a zip tie holding the fuse box on. I don't believe that I had left that way. It must have broken off at some point. But I still have the firewall adjuster, boost lines, everything there. The hole in the hood that I had to cut to make the supercharger clearance and move the scoop forward. He did add the coolant to the heat exchanger reservoir, and because he was in a very cold climate, and the IAC motor, that's the idle air control motor, was starting to gunk up when he had it and the idle was hanging, so he did replace that. And he added a yellow wire to the alternator. I believe it was an extra ground or something, but he had a problem with the alternator that he thought was going on, and he did change the whole harness from an 03 GT that didn't end up working. So it was an extra harness I had sent him, and it didn't work, so he put the original one back in, but he also redid all the ignition coil wires, so that was something the car needed. So the car does have HID headlights and fog lights, and I think he may have changed them to LEDs or just the fog lights to LEDs. In the video it looks bluish green, but they are pure white when you're looking at them. They're super bright. I know he did have one of those HIDs go out, so I think he replaced them with LEDs, but they're still looking really good. Going inside the car, you can see the gauge difference. I have the LEDs on here in this picture, so you can see the gauge cluster. Those are the things I had added. Looking down here, you can see the on in 60 seconds light up Bullitt LED coin delete. I put that in the car, it's still there. I'm glad that the original radio is in here because it is the one of 54 non-premium, non-Mach 460 cars, and so that was still there. And he did add that little pole for the headlights, I'll show you later. But here's the new air-fuel ratio gauge and new boost gauge that he added. They look pretty nice. And so going outside the car is where you'll see the next thing he added. Of course, under the dash he had to do a flasher module, but he did the sequential taillight. modification. I really like this, and I've never done it to the Mustangs because I've always bought performance parts first, but it is something I like, so I was happy that he added those. The shift ball is actually from a Mach 1. It's the same as the Bullitt one, but the one that was with my car was stripped out. He had stripped it out somehow, and I'm going to see if I can re-thread it, re-tap the threads. This was cool opening this up. He had told me he had found a ticket in here from 2012 when I was racing at Midnight Mayhem Racing in Las Vegas at the drag strip. So that's kind of fun to find this in there from October. That's something that I had left in the car unintentionally, and it was up in there, and he thought that was really cool to see. On this side, he added a Mustang Running Horse sticker. And then going outside the car, we'll see a couple things he did that were nice. Mainly this header cal piece. This is brand new. The other one was cracked and broken. My neighbor's hand went right through it when we were pulling the engine a long time ago. It was brittle and they crack easy anyway. So he had added that, and he also put new front brakes on the car, which really helps. They were a little warped, and I remember telling him that they had a lot of heat in them from freeway roll racing, so that's something that needed to be addressed, and he did change that as well. So looking over the car, you can see the condition is very good. The paint is not perfect, of course, and the dent in the quarter panel is there. It was there before I bought it, and you know, I really don't mind it that much. And here is the peeling of the clear coat on the top fender, so it's looking pretty rough. I'm going to try to go over that. We'll do that in a future video. You can see where I had to move the hood scoop forward to clear the supercharger. So obviously not perfect shape, but it is presentable. And the more and more I see this car like this, the more happy I am to have it back and know that this is my car. This is exactly how I left it. And it makes me less desirable to actually repaint it. I think they're only original once, and I might want to just leave this car the way it is because it's not completely awful. It's not totally peeling paint. It does have the clear coat failure and things, but I think it looks pretty good. So the license plate frame was mine. I left it on the car when I sold it, and he kept it and was able to add that. He also put this headlight switch on, a nice running pony pull, and so that looks pretty good in there. Again, I'm glad to see the Bullitt floor mats are in there. Those actually came out of my friend's 200,000 mile Bullitt that was totaled, so I still have those. Bullitt seal plates are still there. Seats look great, they really do. If you recall, these are out of a black Bullitt Mustang because the other ones were pretty trashed. I had done that a while ago, but the back seat looks great. Interior looks very nice and presentable. In the trunk here, you'll see the original cat back to the car. I did have this. I gave it to him with the car, and he only found the exhaust tips at first when we were up there getting the car back. And I remember specifically giving him the exhaust because I looked at the numbers stamped on the mufflers because they were special, and so he went and looked more and he found them, so I was able to get that back. I'll probably clean that up in a future video, so stay tuned for that. Another thing he did was had the car retuned at 520 rear wheel horse, and here's the video of that. So that was something that I suggested he had done when he bought the car, more for drivability reason. I wasn't really telling him he needed to get much more power out of the 440 that it was making before, but the startup tune wasn't very good, and one of the ignition coils had failed on the dyno when I had it, so it did need an adjustment on the tune. So he took it up to that shop in Salt Lake, Premier Performance, and they redid the car, the whole tune. I wish they would have left the traction control switch off, but they didn't do that, so now every time I get in the car I have to turn off the traction control. But anyway, that was something I had told him he probably needed to have done, as well as, like I said, the hanging idle with the IAC so that you could hear the cams better, so the idle would come back down where it's supposed to be. So there are all the small changes he did. I'm going to drive the car around right now for you so you can hear it and experience the car a little bit more. I know it's something that everybody wants to hear again. the cams and how good the car sounds. So here's a little drive around the neighborhood. Here are a couple of pictures I found while I was doing all this. That's the old torn up seat next to the new ones. See, there's the difference there. And this is the part number on the muffler for the Bullitt Mustang. And recently reading the book Engineer Plus Enthusiast Equals Excitement, which is about the development of the Bullitt and the Mach 1, they did stress a lot that they put a lot of work into these mufflers to make them sound different than the GT, to make them sound a little better, and I really like that. So there's the part number for anyone who's looking, if you can see that. And I'm going to put the whole playlist of the Bullitt story in here, so feel free to watch that whole series just like a TV show. There's a lot of parts. There's 15 or 16 parts to that. So I'll put that link in the end of the video so you can watch that playlist if you haven't seen it yet. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Mustang content. Look what you've done!